The smell of cinnamon, warm milk, and ripened bananas always lingered in my grandmother's kitchen. It was the kind of scent that wrapped around you like an invisible blanket, softening even the hardest of days. Whenever I walked through her wooden front door, creaking at the hinges from decades of use, it felt as if time slowed down. Outside, the world moved quickly, with noise, deadlines, and the endless stream of worries that came with modern life. But inside, surrounded by the hum of her old refrigerator and the bubbling sound of something always simmering on the stove, I could breathe again. Grandma had a gift, though she never called it that. She simply said she loved people through food. Her recipes were not just instructions scribbled in a notebook. They were stories, memories, and little pieces of advice disguised as ingredients. Each dish carried a whisper of the past and a lesson for the future. She liked to remind me that food was more than fuel for the body. It was also medicine for the heart and the mind. I remember one evening particularly well when my own thoughts were heavy and restless. I had been pacing in her living room, speaking too quickly, explaining to her how anxiety had crept into my life like a thief, stealing my peace and scattering it in pieces I could not put back together. She listened without interrupting, her hands gently kneading dough on the kitchen counter. When I finished, she wiped her hands on her apron and looked at me with the kind of quiet wisdom only grandmothers seem to possess. "My dear," she said softly, "sometimes what the heart and mind need most is not more thinking, but something simple, something from nature, something you can taste and trust." She reached into a basket by the window, picked out a banana, and placed it in front of me as if it were a treasure. I remember looking at it, puzzled, because how could such a common fruit do anything for the storm inside me? She smiled knowingly and explained, "Banana for anxiety. That's what I've always believed. It may sound too simple, but nature has its secrets. Bananas are a source of tryptophan, which helps your body make serotonin, the happy chemical that soothes the mind. Your grandfather used to laugh at me, but I always told him, when life feels too heavy, peel a banana first before you peel your own heart apart." I laughed at her poetic twist of words, though inside I felt something shift. It was as if she had given me permission to believe that small things could matter, that healing didn't always come in the form of complicated solutions. I ate the banana slowly, and whether it was the fruit itself or the love she had wrapped around the moment, I felt calmer than I had in weeks. That night, she prepared one of her famous recipes: banana bread, warm and fragrant, with just the right balance of sweetness. As it baked, she shared with me her collection of tips for the heart and mind, which she had gathered over a lifetime of raising children, surviving hardships, and keeping joy alive in the small, ordinary days. Her tips were never grand or impossible. They were as humble as her kitchen and as enduring as her recipes. When you feel restless, walk slowly, not quickly. The world will still be there when you return. Write your troubles on paper, then fold the paper away as if folding your worries into silence. When you feel you cannot control anything, boil water, make tea, and watch the steam rise. That steam is proof that even heat and pressure can turn into something light. And always, always cook for yourself, even if it is just bread or soup. Cooking is a form of prayer you can eat. I listened, mesmerized, as the oven warmed the air around us. In her presence, I realized that her kitchen was not just a place for food. It was a sanctuary where the invisible weight of life could be gently lifted. As years passed, I carried her lessons with me, though I often forgot them when life demanded more than I could handle. After she passed away, the house grew quieter, and I found myself returning to it often, standing in her kitchen as though waiting for her to appear with flour on her hands. It was during one of those visits, feeling lost and hollow, that I discovered her old recipe notebook tucked behind jars of spices. The pages were yellowed, the ink smudged from years of use, but the words danced with her handwriting, looping and confident. One page in particular caught my eye. It was titled, simply, "Banana for Anxiety." I smiled through tears as I read her familiar notes. Always choose ripe bananas, the kind with freckles on the skin. Slice them and add a spoonful of honey. Mix with warm milk before bed. This is not just food, it is comfort. I tried it that night, and as I sipped the warm mixture, I felt her presence beside me, as if she were still guiding me with her quiet wisdom. It was not a cure for all my struggles, but it reminded me that sometimes the smallest rituals, born from love and memory, can hold the greatest power. Over time, I began sharing her recipes and tips with friends who were also weighed down by the invisible battles of the heart and mind. I told them about bananas, about tryptophan, about the way food can comfort not just the body, but the soul. Some smiled politely, some listened with curiosity, and some, like me years ago, looked skeptical at first. But almost all of them found peace in the ritual because it wasn't just about the banana or the serotonin. It was about remembering that we are not alone, that someone before us cared enough to pass down little treasures of healing. One friend, who had been struggling with sleepless nights, told me later that she now keeps bananas by her bedside, not just as food, but as a symbol of care. Another friend, a young mother overwhelmed by the chaos of daily life, told me she makes my grandmother's banana bread on Sundays, filling her home with the smell of sweetness that her children will grow up remembering. And each time someone shares their story with me, I feel as though my grandmother is still alive, whispering through her recipes, reminding us all that healing is not found in grand solutions, but in simple acts of love. As I write these words now, I realize that what my grandmother left me was not just a collection of meals, but a philosophy of life. She taught me that recipes are more than instructions. They are love letters, they are survival guides, they are tips for the heart and mind hidden in the language of food. She showed me that a banana is not just a fruit, but a reminder from nature that joy can be found in the simplest gifts. She reminded me that even something as humble as tryptophan, tucked inside a yellow peel, can remind us of the extraordinary way our bodies and minds are connected. The world still moves quickly, perhaps faster than ever, but whenever I feel it pressing down on me, I return to her kitchen in my memory. I peel a banana, I breathe deeply, and I whisper her words to myself. When life feels too heavy, peel a banana first before you peel your own heart apart. And somehow, every time I feel her love rise in me like the smell of bread from her oven, steady, warm, and eternal.